Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Manish Shrestha from Haryana School of Business, GJ University of Science and Technology, Hisar. Today we are going to talk on module Internal Written Communication from the paper Business Communication. First have a look at the learning objectives. The first objective is to understand the purpose of internal communication. Then, to know the tools for internal written communication, and finally, to understand the relevance of each tool of internal written communication. Now, internal written communication is very important for any organization. Internal communication is used when employees exchange their thoughts, ideas, views, etc. with other employees of the organization. Internal communication happens irrespective of level of the hierarchy in the organization, and it includes all the communication among employees at inter and intra-departmental level. Generally, in any organization, there are two types of internal communication. One is internal written communication and other is internal oral communication. Internal oral communication is when the employees are talking with each other over phone, while internal written communication says when we are writing something and exchanging our views or share some ideas or talking to each other via written mode, then internal written communication is being used. The purpose of internal written communication is to give instruction and orders, offer suggestions, filing complaints, sharing information, and handling situations. All the internal written communication serves any of these purposes in any organization. For internal written communication, various options are available, such as memorandum, office orders, circulars, notices, minutes of meeting and agenda, suggestions and complaints, newsletters, and reports. Let's see what a memorandum is. A memorandum is a brief written message or report from one person or department in a company or organization to another. A memorandum is used for internal communication. It is also referred as a memo. Literally, the purpose of a memo is to inform or to reveal. A memo is generally used to provide information to other employees of an organization about a specific issue. It is a written statement a sender specifically prepares for receivers to appraise or inform them about a particular matter or specific issue. These receivers also belong to the same organization as of the senders. The shape of a memo can be of a short note, a note that is crisp in terms of its information content. A memo can be meant for a single person or a group or a committee. When colleagues have to communicate within the organization, they can use telephone as mode of communication. But during a professional communication, a situation sometimes demands to keep a record of communication. In that case, memo can be used to communicate for purposes such as requests, instructions, action taken, and suggestion, etc. Although a memo is not used for lengthy communication. In order to understand the format of a memo, we have to understand various components of a memo. The components are letterhead, mentioning memo, memo number, to, from, date, subject or regarding, main content, and signature. Let's try to understand each component one by one. It starts with letterhead. A letterhead signifies the address of the office of the sender. A letterhead is relevant when a company is having different business units and it conveys inter-unit communication. The next component is mentioning the word memo. Under the letterhead, the word memo or memorandum has to be specifically mentioned. It conveys the type of internal communication and differentiates it from other types of communication. Memo number. Memo number is the identity of a memorandum. It differentiates it from other memo and similar kind of communication. Generally, a memo number is used for referring to a specific communication that took place within the organization. To and from. To is the receiver of the memo and it can be more than one person. Then name of a person has to be written. A committee can be a receiver or a department can be mentioned under the heading to. From, it is for the sender. Here a name of a person can be written, a committee or a department can be mentioned. Then comes the date. As communicated in other modules also, a date, it indicates date, month and year of writing a memo. We should always use a proper format for writing a date and we should avoid abbreviations. Subject. Subject indicates the specific purpose of writing a memo. It provides a hint about the main content of a memo and it helps in deciding about the relevance of the information. Then comes the main content of the memo. It is also known as main body of a memo. It conveys the complete message and includes a reference to the issue, factual information related to the issue, and action to be taken or suggestions given related to the issue. After that, in a memo, there is a place for signature. It authenticates the sender of information and it can be signed by a representative of a group or department. Let's have a look at a blank format of memo. As we can see here, for writing a memo, at the top we put letterhead that includes the name and address of the company. Under that we have to write the word memorandum or memo. Then on left align we have to write memo number, date. Under to you have to write who is the receiver for that memo. Under from you have to write who is the sender of memo. Then there is a subject line about which memo is being issued. Then para 1 which includes the main text of the message. Also you can write para 2 having the main text of the message. Then there is an option of CC, that is carbon copy, if you want to send the information to many members at the same time. And on the right side you have to put signature followed by the name of the sender. For writing an effective memo, you require fundamental knowledge about principles of effective writing. Apart from that, few points must be remembered at the time of drafting a memo. These points are: avoid using salutation. Unlike letter, a memo does not carry a salutation. So do not use dear or respected. Avoid using complimentary closing. A memo does not include a complimentary closure, so avoid phrases like yours sincerely, yours faithfully, sincere regards, etc. Always keep your subject line simple and specific. It increases the effectiveness of a memo. Organize the matter for main content of the memo on the basis of priority of information. Make sure that the word memo is clearly visible on the format. Try to draft the memo using second person. Instead of saying everyone is expected, say you are expected. Use headings and subheads wherever required to present the information. Always put less important information at the end of a memo. Now consider this example of a memo. It is carrying all the characteristics of a good memo. As we can see here, there is a letterhead mentioning the name and address of the company. The memorandum word is clearly written. Then there is a number, that is memo number 975/KV1/10. Then date is there. The memo is written to marketing department and from manager HR. The subject is fake traveling bills. Then the main text is mentioned, which is talking about the subject mentioned above. And finally, it is signatured by Mr. R. Singh. In many instances, an authority has to give certain directions or instructions to their subordinates. For such kind of downward communication, an office order is passed. Generally, an office order carries certain actions to be performed by its receivers. Non-compliance of an office order may attract a disciplinary action against the receiver of the order. Such orders can be issued in a memo format. As memos can be used for communicating in any direction, but office orders are strictly used for downward communication. Some of the reasons for issuing an office order are promotion, increment, demotion, transfer, changes in office timings, shifting of a place, termination, etc. Let's look some of the writing tips for office orders. Every office order should be crisp and short. That means to the point information must be mentioned in an office order. Always mention name and designation of the receiver or receivers, because it must clearly specify that for whom this office order is being issued. Properly sign the office order, and the signing authority must possess the required authority. Clearly state the purpose of the office order, whether the office order is regarding shifting of an office, whether it is for promotion, whether it is for demotion, transfer, change in office timing, or any other purpose, but it must be clearly mentioned in an office order. Always mention the consequences if a particular office order is not complied with. There are 4 phases of report writing: collection phase, planning phase, drafting phase, and editing phase. Let's discuss each phase one by one. In a collection phase of report writing, it is important to collect the relevant information, and it includes news item, surveys, pictures, figures, documents, etc. That means all the related information has to be collected in this particular phase. Once the relevant information is collected, we enter into a planning phase. Under the planning phase, we have to decide the importance of collected material, and it is better to discard any material which is having lesser importance for a particular report. Then decide the logical sequence, the sequence in which you have to arrange the given information. Suppose you are having certain important information that need to be mentioned first, should be put first in the logical sequence. Then decide place of pictures and illustration so that it can well support the written matter in a report. Then comes the drafting phase. Drafting phase is very important because all the written part is covered here. It is having a writing phase where everything related to the report is written. Then it creates the main body of the report. That means it is the main part of the report which is read by the people. Then write a conclusion. That means what would be the outcome of the report. It has to be written in a concise form and presented as a conclusion. Then editing phase. Always examine the prepared draft on the grounds of grammatical mistakes, sentence structuring, styling, etc. And if the organizational policy allows you, get it checked by qualified people so that you will be able to remove any kind of error in that report. This example of office order clearly highlights that it is being used for downward communication. Like in this case, manager HR is issuing office order to sales executive marketing department. Apart from that, main text is supporting the subject line. Overall, it is bearing all the characteristics of a good office order. An office circular or a circular is related to wide circulation of information. It is used to provide information to all or larger number of employees of an organization. The information can be related to opening up of a new facility, inviting suggestions, seeking interest, visit of a specialist, a party, rules and regulations, etc. The basic purpose of a circular is to make the receiver aware about a stated issue. A circular is also treated as an advertisement meant for wider distribution. It is like information for each and every one. Following are the few tips that can be used while drafting a circular. As a circular is meant for larger audience, a simple and jargon-free language should be preferred. It should be short and to the point. It should be properly signed by an authority. It must bear a unique number indicating specific communication. Let's consider an example of a circular. This circular is meant for all the employees. It is having a unique number as mentioned, circular number HR071121. This particular circular is seeking information and inviting suggestions from the employees of the organization. And finally, it is being issued by the authorized person, that is Mr. J. Kumar, Manager HR. Notice, agenda and minutes of meetings are the three components related to organizing and conducting a successful meeting. All the three components are the part of intra-organization communication. In general, the purpose of a notice is to pass on specific information meant for specific receivers. A notice is always issued by an authorized person. A notice needs to be drafted in a summarized way so that the receiver could understand the information by just having a glance. Notices can also be pinned on the notice board to convey the information to the intended receivers. A notice is also having a legal relevance. For example, in case of ending a contract of employment, a notice is issued. Another more popular purpose of drafting a notice is to notify about a meeting. Before calling a meeting, it is essential to notify all the members about it. This information must be sent to all the members who have a right to attend the meeting. The proper circulation of the information has to be ensured by the secretary in consultation with the chairperson of the meeting. Such a notice must mention information about the day, date, time, and venue of the meeting. If decided, agenda items may be mentioned in the notice or attached separately. It has to be ensured that notice reaches all the members within reasonable time before the meeting. Let's have a look at an example of a notice. As we can see from this example, it is possessing all the characteristics of a good notice, as we can clearly identify the day, date, time, and venue of the meeting. Also, this notice is being issued to all the members of the management committee, and a reasonable time has been given for the notice before a meeting. Minutes of the meetings are the official record of discussion and decisions at the meeting. Agenda of a meeting states the activities that will take place during the meeting. An agenda provides a guideline for the members to think and prepare about issues to be discussed. It steers the meeting towards the completion. An agenda also ensures that no issue is left unattended during the meeting. Generally, similar format for writing agenda is adopted by organizations. For example, first agenda item for most of the meetings is confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, and the last agenda item generally is any other matter with the permission of the chairperson. Rest of the agenda items are put on the basis of their priority. A little modification can be made in the standard format as per the requirement. Let's have a look at a sample agenda. Here, agenda is being written and 6 agenda items are being mentioned serial wise, like 6.01, 6.02 to 6.06. Now here 6 mentions that it is a sixth meeting and 01 mentions that it is the first agenda item. As we can see, all the characteristics of agenda are clearly depicted here. After that, minutes of the meetings are the official record of discussions and decisions at the meeting. The minutes of the meeting are generally written by the secretary in consultation with the chairperson. It is always good for a company to keep a record of minutes of meeting. In certain cases, it is mandatory under the law to maintain minutes of the meeting. The minutes mentions the main points of discussion and decision taken thereof. The person drafting minutes of meeting should doubly check the facts and decisions before making it public. It is also advisable to circulate a pre-final draft of the minutes among the concerned members for their observation. Minutes become effective only when they have been read at the next meeting. Let's have a look at sample minutes of meeting. Here, the example is showing that information about the meeting held is mentioned here, then the members present, then all the agenda items are being mentioned, then under each agenda item what is being discussed and what decision has been taken is clearly depicted. Finally, minutes of meetings are signed by the secretary and the chairperson. During normal business of an organization, every staff member at one point or the other has to give suggestions or file a complaint for a grievance. Both suggestions and complaints help the organization in its smooth functioning. Many companies even encourage such kind of activities to identify the flaws in their system. Broadly, suggestions are invited from staff members for solving a problem, and grievances are encouraged to improve the employee employer relationship. As such, there is no standard format for writing a suggestion or a complaint. Still, the writer must keep in mind the basics of letter writing. Although less formal in nature, suggestions and complaints should be written with utmost care. The words should be carefully selected and the matter should be conveyed in the fewest possible words. Also, an employee should keep in mind the formality of employee-employer relationship while suggesting or complaining. Let's have a look at one suggestion letter and one grievance or complaint letter. In our first example, we can see that it is a suggestion letter regarding obtaining a daycare facility. And we can see from this letter that it has been justified that a daycare facility is required for the, as it can be seen from the letter, that daycare facility is required by the employees for their motivation. In another example mentioning the grievance, it highlights the requirement of a new recreation room as the older recreation room is not sufficient and it is overcrowded. We can easily see that a polite language has been used while drafting such kind of complaint. After that, another type of communication is newsletter. Another important intra-organizational communication tool is an employee newsletter. A newsletter is just like a newspaper but for the employees only. All the news mentioned in the newsletter has a direct relevance for the employees. Employee newsletters are used to provide specific information for different purposes such as guiding, educating, increasing morale, establishing a sense of belongingness, and updating the workforce. An employee newsletter provides news from all sections of the organization, irrespective of department, designation, or unit. While creating a newsletter, it is important to ensure that the information included in the newsletter is worthy and of interest of readers. For drafting a newsletter, few guidelines can be kept in mind. These are: develop all the matter of the newsletter by keeping employees in mind. A newsletter should not be too long. A tabloid with 4 pages is generally sufficient for a fortnightly newsletter. Keep the language as simple as possible. Matter should be informative, not directive. Design the newsletter on the basis of certain themes. Decide the regular sections to be included. Then fix the place of each section and maintain consistency for all editions. The sections can mention about safety and human resource, corporate social responsibility, career advancement, retirements, company policies, relevant world news, etc. Let's have a look at a sample newsletter. This newsletter is named as Frontline Employee, and as we can see from the picture, different sections has been included and news relevant to the employees are mentioned here. As a part of intra-organizational communication tool, a report is generally prepared by middle management employees to appraise the senior management about the state of affairs. The purpose of such kind of reports is to provide the information supported by facts and figures to the senior management so that a timely strategy can be formulated. Major purpose of creating internal reports is to support decision making. A report can be a letter writing report or a schematic report. The difference is of the way of presentation of information. For report writing, few steps can be followed for creation of a report. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. It is important for the smooth functioning of an organization for all levels of the hierarchy in the organization. It includes inter and intra-departmental communication. It is used to serve different purposes such as giving instructions and orders, offering suggestions, filing complaints, sharing information, and handling situations. Main written communication options include memorandum, office orders, notice, circular, newsletters, agenda, minutes of meeting, and reports.